the hotel ledger, with my name in his handwriting. The hotel still used a paper ledger, one of those heavy books with a spine that creaks when you bend it open. I hadn't touched one since I was a boy watching my father sign for shipments, blue ink on thick lines. But there it was on the reception desk when I checked in for a conference. A neat page dated yesterday, my name written out in careful, almost intimate cursive, 4 ETHAN. Room 1408, except I hadn't stayed there. I hadn't signed. The clerk slid the key toward me without question, the way people trust handwriting when they shouldn't. I repair clocks for a living. My shop smells of oil and brass, of patient springs, of dust that wants to become memory. Nathan, my partner, writes essays about architecture, long sentences about glass and shadow. 5 years in, we have rules that feel like furniture. 2 glasses by the sink, pour before the sentence that changes a day. He tells his readers that walls can be generous. He tells me that honesty is structural. Lately he's come home late, smelling like cedar and the lobbies of hotels that sell permission. He kisses me with precision and misses the half-inch that matters. He undresses in the hall as if the bedroom has begun to file reports. The ledger shook something in me. My name, his hand. He has a distinctive way of crossing a T, a sharp curve that looks like it's apologizing too late. I traced it with a finger until the paper warmed and decided to keep the truth. I carried the key upstairs because waiting until morning is how furniture learns secrets. Room 1408 was at the end of a corridor that had decided to practice silence. The carpet muffled my shoes like a co-conspirator. I turned the key and stepped into a room that knew too many stories. Curtains drawn, bed too neat, 2 glasses sweating on the nightstand. On the desk lay a note folded once. If you still want the truth, 10:30, rooftop bar. L. L was Luca's, of course. I'd seen him with Nathan at openings, the photographer with careful shoulders, the one donors liked because he never asked for their names. He had a way of looking at rooms that made them feel styled. Once he held a lens up to me and smiled like he'd borrowed something. Now he was upstairs waiting, and my partner thought he was still safe. The rooftop bar was half glass, half sky. People leaned on the rail as if height could forgive them. Lucas sat in the corner near the heaters, tall even when folded into a chair, dark hair loosened by wind, shirt open 1 button past manners. He smelled like cedar and the last hour of a lobby. He gestured to the chair across from him. A glass of water waited, sweating into the night air. "You came," he said. He didn't sound triumphant. He sounded like a man relieved that gravity had done its job. "You wrote my name in his hand," I said. "That's not handwriting a clerk should trust." "I didn't want you to hear it from him," Lucas said. "He thinks he's meeting me after this to end it politely. I thought you should have the room first." "How long?" I asked. "Arithmetic is the cleanest cut." 8 months, he said. "Rain, an elevator that stalled like it needed attention, a lobby that sells permission in soft light. I tried to end it twice. He sent me a photo of your breakfast with a complaint about my captions. I respected the paragraph against my better judgment." He reached for my wrist and stopped at the inch that has its own government. Heat crowded the space without asking. He didn't touch me. The restraint was more erotic than a mouth would have been. My body wanted. My brain filed the petition. Ethics stamped it later. "I didn't invite you for absolution," he said. "Secrets act heavy until you set them in the right air. This is good air." The elevator doors behind us sighed open. Nathan stepped out in his docent face, the one that explains walls to people who only care about glass. He saw me. He saw Lucas. He saw the glasses, the inch of heat, the note on the desk that had guided me here. He closed the distance, but not with touch. He closed the door behind him gently because he has always respected hinges more than people. "Okay," he said. The word was simple enough to live in. "You could have kept my name off the ledger," I said. "You chose not to." "I chose incompetence," he said. "And then cowardice. I cheated. I told myself it was weather and that home is a noun that survives rain. I told myself your patience was elastic because you mend broken hours. I told myself spark was structure. I don't want to hear me again." Lucas had moved toward the rail, letting the wind take part of the weight. He lifted his hand toward my neck, stopped at that same inch, and let it fall to his side as if returning a borrowed word. The city below lit itself like a confession too late. "What do you want me to do?" Nathan asked. His hand stayed visible. He has learned that reaching is a contract wrist signed before brains read it. "You'll end it," I said. "You'll sleep on the couch we refuse to call a guest anything. Next week you'll tell me what this was twice. Once in your architectural voice that spackles narrative, once in small words. I'll decide what my hands can hold without lying to my wrists." "I'll do that," he said. The wind believed him more than I did. Lucas exhaled. He stepped close enough that his breath could right itself on my jaw and set his mouth near my ear without touching. "Thank you for not making me a story," he whispered. "We both would have believed you." He walked away without letting the door audition for punctuation. Nathan and I stood in air that refused to lie. I pressed my palm to the rail until the metal agreed it was solid. "I'm not leaving tonight," I said. "We'll walk home without touching. We'll wait at crosswalks because other people's knees and our better natures both deserve seconds. You'll sleep on the couch. Tomorrow you'll end it without complimenting him. Next week you'll bring me small words." He nodded. He didn't cry. I loved him for that and hated him for that. We walked the lobby like furniture. At the curb, a cyclist cut too close and his palm hovered near my hip, heat offering a mercy I could want and refuse. I refused. A man has the right to choose the boring tool that keeps the lock from lying. At home, the kettle tried to perform and I told it no. He laid blankets on the couch with curator care. I slept like a device I wasn't ready to test. In the morning he came back from the lobby that sells permission smelling like nothing, the cologne adulthood ought to issue. He told me he had ended it. He told me twice. In his museum voice, context, sequence, adjectives like scaffolding. In small words, he liked being two men because one wasn't tired. He mistook adrenaline for architecture. He can be one person if I let him do the work. I let him. That isn't nobility, it's survival. He slept on the couch for 6 nights and learned the distance between our door and our bed like a map he wasn't proud of. On the 7th, he came to me without ceremony. His mouth remembered the lazy precision we taught each other early and almost lost. There is an erotics of restraint that doesn't need applause. There is a thrill in choosing not to ruin morning. 2 days later, Lucas texted, "Thank you for telling the truth under glass." I wrote back, "Try it under fluorescent." He didn't reply, which was the second best thing he did. Work stayed exact. I coaxed a pocket watch from 1911 back into minutes. I told a client her grandmother's clock wasn't broken, it was stubborn, and we laughed like survivors. I taught a boy to wind carefully and not ask the spring to be a hero. My shop smelled like graphite and patience. Time behaved, at least on the days it wanted to. A week later, I saw Lucas in a cafe doorway, camera slung, hands bare. He looked smaller. Or maybe my anger had stopped needing him to be tall. He said hello without trying to own my afternoon. He didn't smell like cedar. The air between us remembered how to be ordinary. He left without auditioning for a moral. Here is the part people ruin with metaphor. I wanted him. The inch, the heat, the way his hand taught my skin a grammar of almost. I wanted to make a mistake pretty enough to narrate on the way home. I didn't. Wanting is a sentence, not a command. Bodies vote. Ethics count. Boredom is a mercy that lets you like yourself at noon. Nathan and I adjusted the frame. 2 glasses before 3 sentences. Less reach, better touch. We stopped letting the kettle decide tone. At openings, we stand near exits not because we plan to leave, but because rooms breathe better when doors aren't theirs. He keeps his phone face down like a man learning that attention is design, not alibi. I keep the ledger slip in a drawer with a broken clock, not to fix, but to remember how time behaves when it wants to lie. If another book writes my name in his hand, I will bring water. I will sit where the exit is obvious and call it honesty, not cowardice. If a hand lifts toward my throat, I'll let the inch exist and answer in a tense I can live with at breakfast. I'll keep choosing verbs that keep us possible. End, stay, tell, work, touch, wait. And when I reset a clock and hear its tick resume, when 2 gears admit they can hold each other without drama, I'll think about the hotel ledger and the rooftop air, and I'll call that deliberate space the most difficult thing I know how to make, and the only one that still holds when daylight forgets its lines.